what you have to do is grind the rock, add water and soap. You separate out a teeny little film of petroleum, and you're left with giant reservoirs of oily soap water and massive mountains of rock and sand. Yeah.
How are we possibly getting more energy out of this than we're putting in?
Well, it's only cost effective when petroleum becomes extremely expensive. Yeah. There was a tipping point. A few summers ago, I don't know if anybody remembers, gasoline went over $5. It was a really big deal. I remember. I mean, you guys were a lot younger, so you probably weren't buying your own gas. But your parents might have canceled a road trip or something. Well, anybody remember the year 2007? Yes, 2009 maybe.
I took a road trip across the country that year.
Oh, really? And your folks were like super bitter about the gas cost, I'm guessing? I remember that year I paid $5.99 for a gallon of gasoline.
Oh,
you know, you got to keep in mind. Yeah, you should keep in mind. When I got my first car, gasoline was I think $1.49 a gallon. Just to put that in perspective. That means it's grown at like quadruple the rate of 40 times the rate of inflation.
Is that like $1.77? That's like what? Between then and now.
Oh.
Or when it gets back down.
Yeah, right. It has been plastic, yeah. At that moment, when the petroleum had that tremendous spike, it was going for as high as $1.19 at $119 a barrel. As soon as it went over $103 or $104, all of a sudden, Canada's like, wait, we can do that. We've got all this crap in the yard that's like asphalt, and it doesn't make sense if we have to sell it at $99 a barrel. Okay. But if we can sell it at $1.05 a barrel, we can make some money, eh? And so they did. And there was this really fascinating economic thing that happened in Canada. They had these overnight economies. All these oil towns that just sprouted like that. And people were like, yeah, I do chain link, and like, yeah, I build track homes, and like, yeah, I have trailers for sale. And like everybody went to Canada, and they're like, oh my God, we're gonna be the next Saudi Arabia. And then like within 6 months, they restarted the refineries in Texas that had driven up the price. And all of a sudden, Canada's like, wait, nobody wants to buy our $105 barrel of petroleum? And all over the world, the barrel had come to a lower price. And so they had like the most amazing economic explosion that was overnight millionaires and then overnight jobless.
Oh, man.
Super amazing. They've been on this tipping point of whether or not they're going to sell this expensive petroleum or not. There is one thing that I really need you guys to know, and this is, I wish I had a couple of facts to make this more clear. I believe that the energy cost of doing, all that stuff, the energy cost of making that into a barrel of petroleum, I believe it takes 3 units of petroleum to produce 1. So it's only cost effective if you can get a lot of money for that one you're going to sell.
Then why don't you just sell the petrol?
Why don't you sell those 3 barrels?
It's part of your operating budget that you get to sell a small percentage of what you make, because most of what you make went back into your production stream. So you've got to cover all of your costs with that one sale. Imagine I've got a job that makes 2 buckets of lettuce, but I need to eat one of these for Jose's laborers, so this bucket of lettuce that I sell has to offset the cost of growing 2 buckets of lettuce, right? Mm-hmm. Now, so much of that petroleum goes into getting, literally, the petroleum itself, that when you sell that 1/4 of your output, that has to cover all the costs of all your inputs. So it's only worth it when petroleum is really expensive. But you know what? we'll pay. Like, we'll pay whatever it costs. The really funny thing is, everybody complains about the price of American gasoline. We got some of the cheapest gas on earth. Yeah. Like, our federal tax base lowers the cost of petroleum extraction because it's artificially sweetened by federal tax rates of the petroleum industry. The real cost of a gallon of gasoline in the United States is basically over $10. We're all paying it in our taxes, so we go and get a good feeling when we go buy it at the pump. But it came out of our taxes already to make it that price. I think we would pay almost anything for petroleum. We love gasoline, and now we've built our country with our roads and our cars, and what else are you going to do? Talk to your average person commuting 2 hours to work every day, and they're like, yeah, but I got no plan B. Like, now I'm stuck. That's my thing.
Yeah, there's no end in sight. We're just going to operate off all of it.
There is, I'm sorry, I know that most of you are trying to pack up, but I still have minutes and I need to use them because we were talking about the Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Pipeline wants to come straight through Montana. Is that Montana?
Yeah.
So it wants to come, it was going to go this way to Texas, but one of these states said no, so now we're going to go this way to Texas, through Montana now.
It's a little mountain.
The deal with the Keystone Pipeline is environmentalists aren't worried about the pipeline. They're trying to stop this type of petroleum. Because, remember we talked about the extraction cost of petroleum, not just the emissions when you burn it? Because this type of petroleum is so much dirtier to produce, environmentalists saying no pipeline so that there won't be a buyer for Canada's oil sand. Canada's like, please, we'll pay for the pipe, whatever, just buy our petroleum. And most Americans are like, whatever it takes, just make it cheaper for me to get to work. And the critical detail, the one that's going to make you a knowledgeable environmental scientist, is that production of petroleum is inherently nasty, and this type of petroleum is inherently the nastiest. Of all of our petroleum, we have gone all the way through the wormhole, and this is the worst possible petroleum economy right now. We're like scraping the bottom of the barrel, whatever it costs. Okay. I've got 3 minutes to talk about whatever. Naomi, I think we're set on this. Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen